Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
All right, I've got you loud and clear now.
Sweet,
Bring you up
perfect.
there. Um, right on. So, everyone, welcome into the stream here. Drew Story. Thank you for taking the time today. I know you're busy. You're playing shows. You're all over the place. Um, Give us a lot of people, if anyone's here listening to my music, then they probably know about you from our collaboration that we just did, and hopefully they've dug into some of your other music as well. But for people who haven't been following you for a while, why don't you drop the two-part origin story for us? Part one is you as a person, where you from, where'd you grow up, etc. And then part two is you as an artist, where'd you start doing music? How did that come about?
For sure. Thank you for having me. This is super cool. I've never done anything like this. So right before I even give my origin, just like to show where I came from, how we kind of connected is like I used to watch your streams all the time, and you've seen me in the chat on your
Yeah.
streams, and so I'm just super grateful to be here. But starting with who I am, my name's Drew Storey. I'm a 17-year-old singer-songwriter, and I live in Langley, BC, which is Canada. I go to a fine arts school, and I've been going there since the first grade, and I'm going to graduate there next year, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, my hobbies are obviously music. I'm a big movie guy, big gaming guy, that kind of stuff. Um, Honestly, most of my life is my music, so I'm just gonna kind of have to jump ahead to the second part of that,
Yeah.
which is I started writing. I've been singing since I was very, very little, and vocally, that has been the toughest part of my entire journey. I was never a very confident or honestly strong vocalist. There's still times where I'm like, oh, I need to improve on that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I started very, very young just because I loved listening to music. I don't know, growing up, I got an iPod Shuffle very, very young, and I would like beg my dad to just like download songs onto that all the time. And I would take that to like school with me when I was little, and I would listen to that all the time. Music was just always around, but I didn't really think that I could like do it. And then my older sister, was in vocal lessons. She was always singing around the house, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. That's cool. So I took those for a few years, and it was fun. And through that, I started kind of writing songs with my like vocal teacher there. She was super sweet, and she was like, "Yeah, but what do you want to talk about in your music?" So we wrote and recorded one of my first songs when I was 9, and it's called California, and it's still up on
Oh.
Spotify, Apple Music, and all that. And that was so weird because you go from just being a kid who's just like singing cover songs like wherever you can, and then you have music out. And I was, oh my gosh, I was probably in like third grade, and all my friends were like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was like, this is super cool. I'm glad that everybody likes it. And it was very well received. Looking back, it's like, ha, that's funny, I sound like a little girl in this song, but it was very, very special at the time. So after that, I started releasing a song every year. I write a lot from that, but then I started writing more on my own. I picked up the guitar maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I've just been kind of messing around and trying to teach myself that. And yeah, then I started really promoting my music. Um, in like 2020, there wasn't a lot to do, and I was kind of sitting at home looking at all these artists that I wanted to be like, and I'm like, oh, I need to put in more effort to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started putting way more effort. Then we ended up talking. Once I released this new song, I reached out to you because I heard your stuff off of Adam Ambrose's
Right.
together, and that is still one of my favorite songs to this day. I was like,
That was
to
a
be
fun
honest,
one.
yeah, that I didn't listen to much rap before other than like older rap,
Mm-hmm.
because I think like a lot of modern rap is like mumble rap, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I had been so sheltered that I kind of just assumed that all modern rap was like that, and I was like, no, that I don't like that stuff. And then I heard this track, and I was like, this guy is just speaking truth for so long, which is what's so important about rap. And you were telling a story, and that was so
Appreciate that.
cool. I reached out to you and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I was in my mind, honestly, I was like, how much is this guy gonna charge? I have like no money. He's probably gonna charge for a feature. He's so good. And then you were like, no, I love it. I want to be on this track. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? This is crazy. So that was just one of those moments where you're like, you look up to somebody and you like watch what they do and you're like, that's super cool. I want to get to that level. And then they say like, oh, let's work on something together. That's crazy. So I'm still to this day, I'm so stoked that we got to work on that track together. And that's the latest thing that I've put out. So that's kind of how I got
Right
here.
on. Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I mean, I'm guessing that it probably won't be the last time we collaborate on something. You touched on something earlier that I thought was interesting, which you mentioned, early on, not feeling like a very strong vocalist. And I think a lot of people can listen to your music, and I know this from my experience, people will go back further in your discography than you would. You might recognize a turning point of like, oh, I started trying here. I started like doing vocal exercises. I started doing this or whatever. And someone else will have a song 2.5 years prior to that where they're like, man, this kid can sing. And like like for them, that's the thing. We're always like our own worst critic. And I think that's pretty common. I do the same thing plenty, which is to say that there's a lot of times where I sing on a lot of my tracks, but I also listen and I hear a lot of times other singer-songwriters, and this is like doing stuff with you and with Adam. For me, I'm like, this is someone who's focusing on that really strongly in their music in the same way that I've focused on lyrics in poetry and rap. And so I think their sound is more refined and practiced than I want to. Like, if there's going to be singing in the song, I'd rather have them doing that, and it makes for an interesting contrast to when you get to work with people like that. You mentioned also that your sister would sing. Does she do music as well? Is that ever something that she pursued much, or no?
Very much so, but in a totally different direction.
Okay.
So she was very much like that triple threat, could act, could sing, could dance growing up. So she and loved Disney stuff. So she went straight into musical theater.
Right.
She is 2 years older than me. So
Okay.
last year she went to AMDA, the Performing Arts School out in LA, and
Okay.
she spent a year studying there. She liked it, but just like the not to suddenly get political, but like she didn't really like the American culture
Mm,
and with all that stuff going on. So she was like, I don't really feel super comfortable living there. I'm gonna move back. So now she's just kind of pursuing acting and stuff like that locally. We
okay.
live very close to Vancouver, which is a huge
Right.
acting, so that works for her. But yeah, she hasn't released any music, but she does write stuff, and she's only recently like I mean, I've always heard it around the house, but only in the past like month, she's
Mm,
really kind of reached out to me and been like, "Hey, what songs do you think have potential?" So it's great that she values my opinion. That makes me
yeah.
feel very, very special. So
That's awesome. The closest I got to, I have one little sister. She's always up for anything. The closest I've gotten to her being in my art is, I did it's called a Very Sailor Drinking Song on a project years ago, and it's like made to like sound like it's in a pub. And everyone that visited that year, everyone that like a friend that I was hanging out with at the time, if they were over, I'd like at some point have the mic and I'd be like, yeah, I don't care if you're actually a singer or not. Sing, like wail along to this so that I can make it sound like a chorus of voices in a pub by the end of it. And so her voice is in there with probably 10 other people singing to make it sound like it's people singing a drinking song together.
totally reminds me. I don't know how I totally forgot this. When I released that first song, California,
Hmm.
I actually also wrote a song with her that year. So I released two songs on that same like record.
Yeah.
And the other one is called "That's Gotta Be Love," and it was just this basic. It's honestly some of the most okay. It's funny because we were so young, but it's some of the most bland lyricism, especially from like somebody like you who is all about the lyrics. You'd probably be like, "Oh, what the heck?" But we were writing it, and that's released. So that actually is the one place that you can hear her singing. But she was
Hmm.
probably like 12, so I don't think
Yeah.
that's a great example. And then also
That's
her
funny.
voice is in. There's one part where there's some like the bridge of California. She did some vocal stuff. So she's in the first two songs, which I didn't even think about
Hmm.
until you brought up your song.
Nice. And you have, I guess I know you have an upcoming song. Maybe I'll get into that near the end so we can kind of pitch it a little bit as well. But
Yeah, for sure.
as far as you as a person, you mentioned big into music, um, big into games. So for on the music for a second, um, were there? You mentioned picking up guitar several years ago. You you write lyrics. You're singing, recording vocals. Are there any other aspects of music or other instruments or anything that you have dabbled in or tried, maybe decided you didn't like as much, or ones you haven't but you want to at some point?
Yeah. So when I was very, very young, before I even started vocal lessons, my parents put me in piano. So like I started with sports as like a lot of kids do, and I literally hated every single one. I begged my parents to quit. It didn't matter what it was.
I
There
was the
was
same.
no, it was so bad. There was one time I remember just feeling really, really embarrassed because I was really, really bad at things. And one time I got so mad that I screwed my like soccer team over and just started shooting in our own goal because I was just like so frustrated. Like that,
Oh
that,
no.
that, that's a pretty stupid story,
Yeah,
but I was so
yeah.
frustrated with how bad I was doing that. I was like, I'm gonna take it out on everyone. Luckily, I'm not that little kid anymore. But I hated it so much, and my parents finally took me out of it, and they put me in piano lessons. And I liked them, but they were very, very hard. I find things like
Hmm.
classical music theory and stuff like that is,
Right.
I mean, it was for a little kid, but even now it's like, wow, this is a lot of sitting and reading stuff. And that's never been what it's about for me. I'm always like, I
Yeah.
learned through doing before I
Hmm.
learned the theory. I mean, it's important to go back and learn the theory so that it's a good way if you're stuck, you can go, oh, I
Hmm.
understand this scale, so now I know I can write a melody off of this. But other than that, I love doing it intuitively. Like I know
Right.
roughly what chords work in every key and stuff like that, and then I can just write a melody on top of it. And I can tell you what notes don't work together, whatever, but I'm not gonna sit down and like transcribe it. And so stuff like that with piano lessons was just a little too much of, oh, you're learning things from a
Hmm.
million years ago, and it's less about the creative. Whereas for me, I love the expression and the originality and the performance of like creating things.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why I dropped out of those a few years later. And then along the way, a friend of mine started teaching me ukulele, which was super cool because I didn't really know how to play anything. I just knew how to sing, and I always needed accompaniment when I was younger. And she taught me ukulele, and I did that for like 2 years. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to move to guitar because I think that is
Hmm.
cooler. I still like ukulele, but um, I don't know. There's a lot more you can do on guitar. So I moved to guitar. Something I would love to do is get back into piano. Like I know how to play
Hmm.
chords and stuff like that, and I do it in my production, but I don't know like live. You'll never catch me playing piano because
Right.
it's not as proficient as the other things.
Hmm.
Another instrument I've always wanted to be able to play is drums. Like I can write drums, I can line them up in MIDI, whatever, but I cannot play them live at all.
Yeah. That's hard as well. I've sat in front of a drum set and been like, this is awful. How do people
Yeah.
make all their limbs do something independently and like let
Oh,
alone
seriously.
be singing? It's very impressive to me. Um, yeah, for sure. So I understand that. How about when it comes to that's kind of talking about the creative side. How about when it comes to other aspects of being an artist? Content creation, the engineering of mixing or mastering projects, um, promotion, things like that. Is there anything that you've liked or been frustrated by in that field?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think like every single thing you just said is a frustrating point for me. Um, I'm all about and this goes for anything in life. When you love doing something, it doesn't feel like work.
Hmm,
When you don't love doing something, it can get exhausting pretty fast.
for sure.
I'm I enjoy making content when I have an idea, but when I'm like trying to like for example that one video that you did to promote our song was so funny. That made me so happy that you put that where you duetted yourself. That was so silly. And I was like, see, that is the exact stuff. Like I wish that I could um step aside. I think this is very much a product of me being a teenager and being in high school. But I wish I could step aside from my ego more often and be like, okay, let's just even though like I do want people to genuinely like this song, let's do some silly content, because all the artists that I follow do that kind of stuff. Like they make funny things. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I love the song and I love their personality. But I do struggle with like thinking, oh, what if somebody doesn't think this is funny? Oh, what if somebody blah, blah, blah. And so that's been something that I've really been fighting with. So it's not that I don't like making content and I don't like promoting. I don't like the internal battle between like me and self-consciousness and all that. That's not fun. Like when I'm in the zone and I just sometimes like, oh, I don't care at all what people think. This is so awesome. I love posting. I love sharing. I'm just like super proud. But the second that I'm like slightly like, oh, what if this isn't a good idea? Then I'm just like spiral, and then I'm like not making anything for like a week, and it's not good. The one thing I do love, the mixing and mastering process. I'm no good at it myself. Like I couldn't set up like like a mixing and mastering like chain and stuff like that. Like I can't. I'm not super technical. I'm wanting to take courses on that. I'm wanting to right now with like high school. I'm just like slammed because it's my last year, and so I know I'm going to be busy. After that, I definitely want to pick up all those things, because I do. When I work with a producer, I actually now stay in the studio during that process. Like in the past, they used to just send me mixes, but now I stay there and I'm like, hey, what if we adjust this and we try things, rather than just getting like ideas, because I know what I want and I have a good ear, but I don't know the like software side of it yet. And so in that sense, it can be frustrating, because it's like then you're paying more for someone's time for that. And it's like, oh, if I could only do it myself. But I wouldn't say the task is frustrating. I actually really, really enjoy that process. But I don't enjoy the fact that I can't do it on my own yet. I hope that makes
it makes perfect sense. I always found when I first started learning about it, finding mixing pretty fascinating, but also and enjoyed doing it and playing around with things. And I kind of loved the magic of. I remember when I first started doing it, I'd show anyone who would listen, like anyone was interested, I'd be like, yeah, here's what it actually sounds, like this is actually what it sounds like when you just record something, and then here's all these things you throw on it to make it sound like an actual song. And
for sure.
And I think I completely understand what you're saying, because I early on, I'm more confident about it now, but it was definitely like that, where I enjoyed it, but then at the same time I was like frustrated when I wasn't getting the results that like I knew that I should be able to, if I like was doing it right, so to speak, or like had seen other people be able to do. And so yeah, I understand that. And just like everything, over time and practice, now like I usually almost, it's not that I wouldn't someday go to like studios and things like that. I just feel like I'm at a level that I've gotten close enough to it not making sense for me want to pay several $100s to someone else to mix and master a track, because I also like think a lot about what really makes the difference for most listeners. And I also remember like back in the day, I'd have some song that was like in my iTunes or on my iPod or something, and I was like, hey, welcome in. We got Anissa in the chat. Welcome in. And I remember kind of just like, I wouldn't know, because this was long before I did music. I started much later in life. But there'd be like a song that I loved, and I didn't know why it sounded different back then. Now I know, like, oh, it was like some demo version, or some local band or a friend had sent me something, and it was like mixed really shitty. But at the same time, I loved that song because it like had a great melody, and like it was a good song on its own, and that didn't stop me as like a everyday listener from like wanting to listen to the artist. And so then I have to get outside my own head a little bit on that sometimes and be like, damn, this actually sounds pretty freaking good, and there's probably no one out there, if they like this type of music and would like this song, they're not going to not like it because my mix is 10% away from being as good as what I could have paid someone else to do it,
I totally hear you on that, and I'm glad that you have that story. That's so funny. I recently was like, I totally forget what song it was, but I was humming a melody. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that song in like probably like 10 years. So I went back and I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, this is an awful mix.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me think like, okay, I'm no longer at a point where I can even say if my own music is objectively good or bad because I'm so far into this whole mixing game and all that I have lost what it's like to be the average listener.
Right.
And I have completely lost what it's like to just enjoy something for the sake of it is what it is and not like pick up, because the way that I write is I listen to the music that I love and I pick apart every single instrument so that I can think, oh, maybe I'll borrow that for my next arrangement. And I don't ever really anymore just sit down to a song and just listen to it all and like not be thinking. Like I don't just consume music anymore. I kind of study it more. I know I hope that doesn't seem like super like, oh, I'm so fancy, but it's just it's because it's a pattern that I've fallen into to help with my writing, but it really has ruined the experiment or experience. And so I definitely wish I could go back to just being like being the average listener so that I could be my own like, yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Because now I'm so lost that I always need somebody else. And I don't like needing somebody else to be like, this is good to like pursue something. But sometimes you need that push when you're so like unsure about something.
I know for me, I think maybe I'm lucky. I'm kind of in between where I know that listening to music that I like is like such a positive thing for me. It's like I can be feeling real shitty or have like a task to do and I'll like put on stuff from my library that I like and then like whatever boring apartment duties, like whatever I need to clean or something, flies by and I'm in a good mood by the end of doing this boring ass task because of what I'm listening to. And I think also sometimes I even get analytical about that, but I haven't lost joy for it, which is good. But I do think that when I'm listening to a song a bunch and I am enjoying it a lot, I'm not going to be able to stop my brain from going to like, oh damn, why can I like not put this on, I have to put this on repeat. And then I'm like, I should do something like that sometime. Or like, that's a cool way to start a song. And, so that definitely sneaks in there for sure.
Yeah. I wouldn't, to rephrase, I don't think I lost like that at all. Like I honestly can't clean my room without having music.
Yeah.
It's weird, but like the second that there's music on, just like playing off my laptop, I could go for hours cleaning and stuff like that, and it makes anything enjoyable. I still love music, that hasn't changed, but I think I've lost touch of like what makes people like music. Like I think for me, there was a long time ago, like you were saying, where I would just hear a good melody and I'm like, oh, that is so awesome. And I still do that with other people's work, but then with my work, I'm like, it needs to be mixed to top tier. And so then it's like, yeah, I'm trying to get back to that because there's so much stuff that I want to put out that I'm holding off on because I'm like, oh, I can't afford to record that entire song right now. But people are like, when are you releasing that? When are you releasing that? And I'm like, oh, I want to, but I don't really have $2,000 in the bank right now. So can't really do that. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to take a lot more of the responsibilities on to myself.
Yeah. And a good thing is, I mean, like what I meant, same thing with the mixing, you'll get to where you want to be. And also a comment that I've had in my head that I just think that when I was your age would have been a good thing to hear, and you said something directly about it, was when you mentioned the like making content, what people think about it, is it a good idea, is it a bad idea. One thing I will say is being like still in high school or even a young adult and having the self-awareness to, even if there's parts of it you don't enjoy, you kind of still are a little bit analytical about why, or you're thinking about, you're like, oh, I know that like this is probably why, and like, my ego says this or whatever. Even just having those thoughts in your head at your age is probably a pretty good foundation for being able to like break out of it eventually if you want to, and when you practice that aspect of things more, because I think that's always the first step with something like that, is kind of like recognizing and identifying it. And I know for me, I was never like, I had to come to that point definitely first before I started making kind of funnier stuff, or just like decided that that was something I wanted to do, because if you can't really articulate it, you don't really even know why why it's an issue to start. You can't really identify it. So I think you'll be fine there.
I appreciate that. That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Outside of music, you mentioned gaming. What are some all times for you, and maybe something more recent?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what I started playing. Really, I mainly played at friends' houses growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a Wii. Everybody had a Wii growing
Yeah,
up.
that was the only console in my house. I was always like at friends' houses playing theirs, and I had a PC,
Yeah.
but I never had a console until we got a Wii.
I never even had a PC or
Yeah.
anything like that. I mean, like we had a PC, but not like a gaming PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played. I actually, funny enough, I grew up on Club Penguin. If
Yep.
you,
Yeah, I know.
I say if you know, just because it's been gone for so long that some
Yeah.
forget. So unfortunate. That was great. That was like, I think that was really the first thing I played. And then I played like the Wii games, and I would go over to my friends' houses, and I remember growing up, like everybody had their Xbox 360. I eventually got one, and all my friends had one, and they would play like, I want to say like they played like Skate 3 a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and like those kind of games. And I was always like, oh, these are so cool, because I was so used to like playing like literally Club Penguin.
Yeah, something that would run in a web browser. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, exactly. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. We can play little card games online. And then these people would play full games. I was like, that's so sick. I got an Xbox 360, and I kind of like, what did I?
I'm seeing in my chat someone mentioned the game I Am Fish, one of the ridiculous. But people come in my chat and they're like, play I Am Bread and I Am Fish, and like these weird sim games that people release, and I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is.
No. Okay, I Am Bread is nearly impossible. I Am Fish, I'm about halfway through right now.
No, you've played both of these.
Okay. I don't
That's
have I Am.
hilarious.
A friend of
Yeah.
mine has I Am.
Yeah.
But okay, when it comes to modern gaming that I play, okay, I've played I Am Fish. It's really, really hard, and I'm a pretty
Yeah.
chill person,
Yeah.
but that game makes me lose it. Like I'm not the guy to break a controller, but if
Yeah.
you see me break a controller in the next month,
It's because I Am Fish.
Fish is so difficult. It's so hard. Like, it's one of those games where you have to utilize.
Oh my god,
You
that's
have
funny.
to move in super tiny increments.
Yeah.
And the way that you control your character changes every few seconds depending on like where you are, and you have to use almost every part of your controller to
Yeah.
move the character. So it's so annoying. And it's like not very clear where you have to go in the game a lot of the time. So
Speaking
you're
of
just kind of
old browser games, did you ever play a game called QWOP? QWOP.
never heard of that.
It was this game, like, I mean, even 10 years ago, I don't know exactly when, but it was literally like just some flash game in the browser, and it reminded me of what you said, because it was called QWOP, QWOP, and it was literally because you controlled a runner, like, on a track, and it, like, each key controlled, like, right thigh, right calf, left calf, and you had to try and like move their legs in like one muscle at a time to like to like actually like function and drag yourself along. It was so hard.
It's painful, but like modern games, what I always loved and what I loved about Club Penguin was like we would hop on with my friends. I was there the day that the game died. We stayed up till 3 a.m. when they took it down. Me and my friends were like all stayed up on like a Discord call ago, and it was so cool to have that online interaction. For me, I'll play solo games, but really I only play solo games when friends are over and we pass the controller back and forth.
Right.
I've never been a huge solo guy, so like
Chat
games like
asked if you've played Stray. Have you played that? You know about that game, Stray?
I watched someone play it. I have not played it myself. It does look fun.
But that's single player is as well, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
I would
I
play
think it is.
I'm happy to play single player,
Yeah.
but I want friends there. So like as
Yeah.
much as people on all three of these games, people make fun of them. you know what? All four of these games. People make fun of all these games all the time, but they're like my four favorite games just because I could play. They were cross-platform multiplayer, which we got Fortnite, even though everybody makes fun of it.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like it's not about the fact that there's a bunch of 9-year-olds playing that game. It's about if you can get people your age playing that game, then you're playing with your group.
Yeah,
Just don't
of
play
course.
with anyone.
No, there's a reason it's one of the biggest games in the world and has been since it came out. Like, you can't.
True. We got Roblox, even though they just removed sound. Kind of sad, not gonna lie.
I've never played. It's a little after my time, but I know of it.
It was fun because I think that was really the first one that I started playing with my friends. It's like other people upload games that they make, so like there's all the time on it. So it's just really a bunch of. I play Fall Guys now, which I love so much. Once again, just another great cross-platform. And then when Among Us was big, I loved that.
Of course.
We would play that all the time because it came out like during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't think that I was at school during the time. I was doing like online school like everybody was. And so we would, for our classes, we would be like, oh, we don't have a call for 30 minutes. Do you guys all want to get on Among Us? And it was so fun. So any of those, like, I like really simple games where you can play with friends. That's just me. It just makes me happy. So
yeah, I love that. Anything outside of music or games that are like hobbies or things you have? I didn't catch that last sentence, by the way. Sorry.
No worries. I gotta know what you play. Like I know you play Overwatch, right?
Yeah, I play that sometimes. I don't know. I like a lot of different games. I grew up playing like a lot of MMOs. So like I remember like getting, you know, us old folks had the family computer, and like if you were lucky in like the late 90s, early 2000s, you got the family computer. And like
that was me.
Yeah, and I remember being like I was probably 6 years old or something. It's like 1998, 99. I don't know, around then. We got our first computer, and my grandpa was like, it still is super into like early cutting edge of like building computers, gaming on computers, and like all this stuff. And he came over and was like installing MMOs on our computer, like when I had dial-up internet, and like him and I would play. So I grew up playing like those types of things, like old school games that were online. And then later on got more, I think when I was older, I had a little more patience and got into story games more and stuff. But I bounce around between different things. Right now, I've been enjoying. I like things that have a lot of kind of like lore and story. I'm very into like games as art. In the same way that like we think of like movies getting awards and things. I think it's amazing when like, for example, the universes of game like Fallout or Elder Scrolls and things, that they create this like really deep world that a lot of people can play for years and in different versions. I think those are pretty cool. So I've been playing some Fallout 76 lately, and some Warframe. I like that one, but Sea of Thieves is a great Sea of Thieves is one of those amazing games where it's like a kind of a cross between the silliness of some of the like multiplayer, just hop on with your buddies, easy games we were just talking about, and then I wouldn't say easy, but simpler, and then but still having a little more like depth to it is pretty fun. Everyone on there trying to sail their ship and not get sunk full of holes.
For sure. I just got it off of like I have the Xbox Game Pass. I guess
exactly.
My dad does, so I'm always just downloading the ones that look good, and I'm yet to play it. So I will definitely get my friends on and play that.
Thanks for the follow there, Anissa. I saw that. Sorry, 10 minutes ago. Let's see. Papa's Pizzeria. Is that a game? Papa's Pizzeria?
Oh, geez. That's like I swear that's like an old mobile game that was like one of those meme games that like little kids, iPad kids would play.
Blacklace says Unreal Tournament, Soldier of Fortune. Those are some old school shooters. For sure. I remember, okay, funny, when I was back in, we'll wrap things up here pretty quick, otherwise I'll go on about this forever. But there's BX in the chat says, has he played Dinkum? Is this a thing, or did I just get like D's nuts but with a word that I don't know? Is that like? Is that is like?
I hope you did.
I was like, is Dinkum a game? Okay. I was like,
If it is, I have never played it.
no, I don't think I have either. So apparently it's a game.
I'm not even gonna say what I haven't
What's
played. I'm
that?
not risk.
Cool math game. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, I loved cool math games. Those were
I had a
fun. I
game called
played all
Math Blaster back as a kid. It was like a educational math game that was on PC.
Yeah, cool math games was like a lot of those like I don't even know. Did you ever see those like Snail Bob Flash games or whatever? They
Yeah,
were like little.
yeah.
It was all of those.
I was gonna say when he brought up Unreal Tournament, or when she brought up Unreal Tournament in the chat here. So Unreal Tournament, the one that was like probably the most popular, 1999. The basically I had a tech class in high school, and this was my freshman year, so I was probably like 14, 15 or so, and I had this like tech IT class, and we would get done with our like modules and the quizzes really early. And this one kid who knew how would bring in games on a flash drive and like install them to the share folder. And we would all be playing Unreal Tournament on like the IT PCs. And the teacher of that class was kind of this bizarre lady who was just like in her own head all the time, and she just really didn't notice. And we would just finish the thing in the first half of the class and then be running around shoot each other in Unreal Tournament for the remaining half an hour. Yeah, good times. What do you got? Don't make fun of iPad kids. We will unite and fight back in the chat. We have.
No.
What do you got coming up soon? I know you have another release this month. That'll be your next one after My Girl.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm so excited to see what happens with this song because it is so the opposite of My Girl.
Okay.
And everything I love about My Girl is great. But it's the opposite. My Girl is very much like just like this bright, cheery pop song.
Yeah.
And this is the opposite. It literally is an entire song about what we were talking about earlier, about how I look up to people and want to be more like them and less like myself, or how I let other people control a bunch of my life. And it is the most introspective and honest writing that I've ever done in a song. And when I went into the studio, I had planned on recording a different song, and he was like, "That's super cool. Do you want to show me a few more?" The producer I was working with. And I showed him this, and he's like, "Dude, why wouldn't you pick that one?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I don't want to say these things because I'm scared of what people will think when I say them."
Yeah.
He's like, dude, if it's evoking any kind of emotion in you, that's a sign that you have to do it. And so, I let him pressure me into recording a song that I was way too scared to say. But I think I played it last night at a show, and like my hands were shaking, and it's like.
Have you shared any audio online or like previews of it? I don't think I've heard.
I've shared a bit on my Instagram for sure. I would be happy to send you more stuff.
Please do.
Yeah, I hope it resonates with people because for me, there's a chance that people are just like, that it goes over their head and they're like, oh, whatever, it's just a song. And when I play it every time, I'm going to be like shaking.
that's most of my discography. Not really popular, but I like writing really introspective stuff.
No, exactly. And I think it'll be good because now that I'm seeing everybody really they're like what we did, I'm like, oh, what if they only like the bright pop stuff? But at the same time, my other most popular song is called Things I'd Never Do, and it was also a slower, sad song.
I played a little bit of that one at the beginning during the countdown timer, I think.
Oh, sweet. And that song is it was produced by the same guy. But now I'm just like, okay, well, that song's just like a sad love song, and then My Girl is like a happy love song. Everybody can relate to that. Can people relate to what I'm talking about in this song? I have no idea. But I also think there's something about not to compare it. I'm not saying it's gonna be the #1 song in the world, but like something about the vulnerableness of like Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. And in that song, it's like,
Yeah.
if I wrote that, I would have been dumb enough to not put it out because I would have been like, oh, people are going to be uncomfortable hearing about maybe. And so then I wouldn't have put it out.
Right.
But that song was kind of just like, oh shoot, people like that stuff. So that's very reassuring. I'm the most excited for this because this is me at my, like, I very much feel like I just like poured all of myself into this song. Like I spent like 16 hours in the studio working on it. Probably, honestly, probably more than that. Probably way more than that. I probably spent like 30 hours in the studio. And just working on it so much. And I'm just in love with the song. So I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks of it.
I'm looking forward to it. For sure.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. And it comes out August 26th. So that's in 19 days, I think.
Soon. And it's cool that you already have that in some of your sets so that people coming to see stuff that you're doing live get a little to see something that they can't listen to quite yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing that, and I love telling them when it's coming out. And then it's also super cool because I get messages all the time from people who follow me from gigs when I release a new song. Like My Girl, I did that song a lot before I released the original. And somebody messaged me, oh, this was always my favorite when you played it live. I'm so glad you recorded it. I already know every word. And I'm like, that's so cool. That's so special. And yeah, I just love doing stuff like that.
Chat says, I can't wait. Blacklist says, can we expect another collaboration because My Girl was fabulous? Who knows what comes along in the future? I don't want to pressure a guest for an answer to a question like that. But if the right thing comes up, then I'm sure, yeah, because I like what came out of it. So
yeah, my answer is I want that to happen. I'm not going to specifically try and write for that to happen because that's when things go bad. You just got to let it happen. It would be so cringe if it was like forced. That's the beauty of this song, was literally how it happened was I was messing around with all the stems and I muted the guitar solo because I wanted to hear what the other instruments were doing underneath the guitar solo because it's so loud in the original. And then I was like, whoa, this is enough space for somebody to come in and change it up. And I was like, it's so funny. I was literally talking to my mom. I'm like, what should be here? She's like, you could do like a rap or something. And I'm like, I know this awesome rapper.
Hey, shout out Mom.
Shout out Mom. Shout out Mom, who literally was like, yeah, you should do that. And it was so funny because before I messaged you, I was just scrolling through some rappers that I knew. And shout out Mom again, because she was like, that Love Each Other song, that's something special. And I was like, that is something special. So I reached out.
Okay.
And now it's happening. Now My Girl is here.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know, since Drew and I have been going back and forth about this, it is really annoying sometimes getting digital distributors and all the different platforms to label things correctly and put them on the right profiles and blah, blah, blah. And so the only reason that I haven't been as like the proportion of my promo efforts have not matched how much I love the song is because I know that at some point this version we will probably have to like pull and resubmit and then like I'll be all out on it. But we've been trying to figure out exactly how to get it listed right, so we'll keep you guys posted.
It'll be the exact same song.
Yeah,
just probably posted under a different title, and it'll be back up. It's just it's crazy. But if you've been streaming the song so far, thank you for all the love. And if you're not, honestly, gotta say, I'm not saying this about me. You're missing out on Petravita's bars. You're missing out.
You know, what's the sign of a good collaboration? This is something I've found when I've worked with people, and it kind of seems to translate into the effort that comes into the promotion and stuff afterwards and how well the track does. It's a good sign if whenever the other person is sharing the song, you notice that they're highlighting your part a lot, and when you're sharing the song, you feel like, oh, the best part is their part, and like that's really catchy. So that if that's, you know, like then it kind of feels like you don't feel like, oh, you're just tagging along on someone's track, or like that no one feels like maybe they felt obligated or whatever. You know, I think that definitely happens if you if you have like things like paid features and stuff like that is a more common scenario. Then there's not as much kind of maybe just love for the project. So I think that's a good sign. So I'm glad that you like the rap and that you're happy with that. We have
It's actually your favorite. I love it.
we have one important question in the chat before I wrap things up here. Major Hurricane TV asks, cat girls or dog girls? And I'm just gonna preface this by saying Major Hurricane is Major Weebacane, a lot of anime stuff. So I don't know exactly how, cat girls or dog girls. I think the average person might be, do you want to date someone who really likes or has cats or dogs? He may be asking, do you think an anthropomorphized cat-human hybrid person is more attractive than a dog-human hybrid? So you're going to have to navigate that one how you feel.
No, that's my people.
Okay.
I know. That's like my friend group at school.
Yeah, let's go.
So in terms of like actually having the pet of like a cat or a dog, definitely someone with a dog. I don't know. Cats, I used to like cats when I was younger, and then they're just like, I don't really like things that like go really slow and then really fast all of a sudden. Whereas like dogs are always fast. So it's like you can kind of tell when dogs they start to bark. But cats will go from so chill to just like ripping up your left arm. And then it's like, dude, what? No, I'm not about that. So assuming that the anthropomorphic human would take on the characteristics, I don't really want a girlfriend that like snaps all of a sudden out of nowhere like a cat. Right. So, you got to go with the loyal dog. That's the answer.
I like it. That was incredibly genuine and well thought out for that question. So thank you for doing it justice. Anything you want to leave people with before I hang up and let you get on with the rest of your Sunday?
Yeah, I got a few things to say. Okay, number one, follow on Instagram at the Drew Storey, and I'm only saying this because I'm about to drop a song that I think you all will love on August 26th. It's called Merch.
Put his name in the chat so people know how it's spelled.
Super excited for that. The second thing, stream My Girl by us. Because Petravita says some pretty crazy things in there. And I'm like, it's pretty awesome. It revived my love for a song that I was so sick of. And now I just like adore it. Because it's such a repetitive song. It has like this, it's like times. And then you say different things. And then I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I needed, was a refresh. And then last but not least, actually stream Love Each Other by Adam Ambrose and Petravita, because that got me hooked on Petravita. So
right on. Well, I can't argue with any of that. Thanks a lot for taking the time. This was a good chat. I think you're doing it right. You got a lot of bright stuff ahead, and I'm looking forward to more from you, my friend. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll let you know when I upload any of this and stuff like that if you want the link. So
sweet, thank you.
All right, see ya.
All right, see ya.